U.S. Northern Command is saying that approximately 500 active duty Marines are, quote, prepared to deploy, in their words, as unrest in Los Angeles continues. This is after, of course, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, had mentioned this.
Well, it's actually happening. 500 U.S. active duty Marines are on standby if the protests continue in Los Angeles. And spoiler alert, it's not getting any better in Los Angeles. In fact, we're getting into the night hours where it's expected things are going to get worse. Okay, so in this video, we're gonna go over the Marine stuff, go over some updates, some new statements. We have a lot to cover. Now, before we start the video, please like the video. That's the #1 way you guys are helping this channel, but it also helps others see the videos as well. People need to see what's happening right now. Let's begin.
I also want to ask you about some breaking news that we're just getting in. This is brand new into our newsroom, that the U.S. Northern Command is saying that approximately 500 active duty Marines are, quote, prepared to deploy, in their words, as unrest in Los Angeles continues. This is after, of course, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, had mentioned this. Is that necessary at this point?
All right, so we have the direct statement from U.S. Northern Command. Now, we know they have already deployed 2,000 National Guard troops, but down here it talks about 500 Marines from 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines at 29 Palms, California are in a prepared to deploy status should they be necessary to augment and support the DoD's protection and personnel efforts. Okay, so as I film this video, what we're seeing right now in Los Angeles is basically chaos. These are not federal vehicles. This is known as a Waymo, basically an autonomous vehicle that moves around in Los Angeles. And as you can see, it says some pretty bad stuff on it, like F-ICE and other agencies, but right now, this is the chaotic situation.
Gas that are being floated around. Again, this is on a freeway in Los Angeles after they've been told to disperse. You see police and protesters.
Okay, so this is the big issue in Los Angeles right now and why the Marines are very close to deploying. You have a mayor who's saying, we don't need any of these federal assets, they can leave. We have the situation under control. Yet in this interview, the highway is under siege in Los Angeles.
Well, there are a number of protests that are taking place around the city, and unfortunately, in a couple of the areas, there has been an unlawful assembly declared.
Now, make sure to please subscribe to my channel. This is what we do here. We hold our elected officials accountable, and we cover stories like this throughout the United States. Let's continue. Now remember, the mayor is calling this an unlawful assembly, and she's absolutely correct. However, that might be an understatement when you're throwing bricks through officers' vehicles and trying to hurt agents. Now, one thing I do want to mention is we haven't seen any clashes with the National Guard or anyone mess with the National Guard ever since the Guard went all out and went full anti-riot control.
Move back! Get back! Get back! Move back! Get Move back!
Now, this is very crucial as far as the details of how far the escalation has to go for the 500 Marines to deploy to LA. That's sort of left up in the air. All we know is that the Marines will deploy if federal assets need the help. It doesn't say if the National Guard is getting attacked. federal assets. So Homeland Security, that is ICE, Border Patrol, FBI, and of course National Guard would fall under that.
People should also exercise that right peacefully. We do not want to play into the administration's hands. We're working with officials, we're organizing resources, but what we're seeing in Los Angeles is chaos that is provoked by the administration. When you raid Home Depot and workplaces, when you tear parents and children apart, and when you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic. And deploying federalized troops is a dangerous escalation, but we need to be real about this. This is about another agenda.
Okay, so as you can see, these are updates from the mayor. She is still saying this is all Donald Trump's fault. This is provoked by his administration. And from the Trump administration side, no, we didn't do anything. You guys have illegal immigrants in your city. We are there. You guys are mad, and this is what happened.
Elected official, from the governor to the mayor of Los Angeles to myself and others, please, if you intend to protest, do it respectfully and peacefully. That is a tenet of what it means to be an American, the right to be able to peacefully protest. But this kind of thing, setting cars on fire, only gives Donald Trump the images and the response that he wants in order to be able to try to escalate even further.
Yeah. All right.
So right now, the Trump administration is not amused because we keep having these elected officials appear on television and they are saying, yeah, this is bad. Don't light these cars on fire. However, we know you're very upset. So keep continuing what you're doing. However, just be peaceful about it. But that's not what's happening. We have very violent protest right now.
Incentivized now. This is now standard. We talked about this yesterday. This is now standard on the hardcore left. And the Democratic Party, I know they've done a lot of sort of fake introspection over the last couple of months after losing an election, saying, oh, maybe we need to pivot and be more sensible. But when the stuff hits the fan and elements of their political coalition right here do things like this, they are just frozen in place, stammering about how it's Donald Trump's fault, and too craven and cowardly and weak to actually lead.
Yeah, and you look, Lydia, at what we're seeing from up above, and this crowd, it seems like the number has just been growing, right? Mm-hmm. And now it looks like they're getting in the way of traffic here. This gets so dangerous. It's
what they always do.
It's what they always do, and they're getting there, right? Yep, they're right there.
Yep.
Stop.
Now, we haven't seen much from Gavin Newsom. However, he is writing a lot on the internet, like X, giving these updates. Despite protests already being managed by LAPD HQ, President Trump is escalating the situation by threatening to deploy roughly 500 active duty Marines to the streets of Los Angeles. Los Angeles, remain peaceful, don't fall into the trap that extremists are hoping for. Again, there's this weird divide where elected officials are saying, if we bring in more security, you guys are just trying to bait all of the protesters to look bad. Thus, it's your fault, not the protesters' fault. It's the federal assets' fault. Again, leave your comments down below how you feel about this.
Somebody's throwing something. People are throwing things. People are throwing things. Stay calm. Don't run. Don't run.
Hold your ground! Don't move!
Now, as far as all of those protesters that were on the highway, thankfully it took about 45 minutes to disperse. However, it got rather violent, and again, protesters are throwing rocks at local law enforcement. Again, LAPD is in charge of trying to calm this all down, but it goes to show that these protesters don't care. If you are collaborating with federal assets, such as Homeland Security, and you're helping out the Trump administration, you are a target.
Have outliers that throw things and cause damage. And so, yes, the LAPD came in and they called it an unlawful assembly. I believe that the LAPD has this underhand, and they are very, very experienced in riot control. So this is something that they can handle. We do not have to have the National Guard here. We certainly do not have to have the Marines here. This is a manufactured crisis.
Again, I will fully admit, yes, these are outliers as far as the entire city is not under protest and siege. However, these outliers are pretty significant and pretty violent and very dangerous. I mean, here's another raw tape of what's happening to local law enforcement. And by the way, I don't know if it's that big of a flex to say our law enforcement is pretty experienced in riot control. That's probably not a great thing. I mean, it's good that they're experienced, but what does that say about the area of Los Angeles? So again, you can see how saying this is an outlier is a little problematic and maybe not the most accurate terminology. I'm just trying to show you guys all of the raw footage so you can have an informed opinion. But again, what you're seeing is what you get. And the protesters got mad at local law enforcement for knocking them down and arresting them. They said, how could you do that? You just hit them in the head. Those motorcycle guys were trying to hit these police officers with their motorcycles. But again, trying to show you guys this is the situation right now. They're just outliers.
Now to CNN's Kyung Law, who has been standing by all day. Kyung, a lot has happened since we've been talking to you. Where are you now? What is the status where you are?
Well, there are multiple protests now, or at least we should call them incursions between the people who've been demonstrating here, people who've joined in, and law enforcement. We are near where all of this began, and what you're seeing here is a line of a mix of, though predominantly federal agents, Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Patrol, as well as the National Guard that brought out some of these protesters. But you can see they've created quite some space between them and then these protesters. That violence that you were referring to, Jess, you can see that there's a car burning in the background. And while they've made a semicircle here on the street, you can see that the Waymo over there has been vandalized. And we understand that some cars over there may also be Waymos that have been set on fire. So this is a part of the night that law enforcement really worries about, because when I look at some of these protesters, they are not resembling the people who were here when all of this began earlier this morning in Los Angeles. This crowd is different. And so now you have a problem for law enforcement trying to contain these people.
Now, what's interesting about these protests, she's absolutely right. Essentially, everything is totally peaceful, everything is very legal. But then you hear, hold on, the National Guard is showing up, let's provoke a little bit. And if you watch my most recent video, I actually talk about this, where everything is peaceful, you provoke, you get closer, then you have a clash, and then you have people on TV saying, well, it's it's an outlier, not everything is a clash. However, when these clashes happen, we're talking about lighting cars on fire, throwing bricks at moving vehicles, going really fast, and the FBI has to try finding you. Very, very bad thing. So as I make this video, we're going into the night of LA. So make sure you guys are please subscribing, liking the video, so I can give you guys some updates. I unfortunately think, and I don't want it to happen, I really do think, because this is the third day, it's a Sunday, I do think this is going to be the worst night, and it does look like more people are ready to clash and show down with the federal government, considering we are already seeing cars on fire and we haven't hit the night yet. So that's what I think is going to happen. Let me know what you guys think is going to happen. Thank you guys for being here. God bless, and we'll see you all later.